There's a lot of chatter at the moment about using AI and content writing, whether it's a good thing or a bad thing. I personally think using AI to write content can be a good thing when done correctly. So in this video, I want to go through how we and how I think you should use AI to speed up your content writing, but not replace it, and use it in the right way. Cool, so let's get into it. Using AI to produce content the right way. Now, just before I get into it, I want to give a special thanks to Ryan Law. You can follow him on Twitter. The next few slides are based on a talk that he did in Singapore. Anyway, I want to start with saying that AI content is doomed to fail. Now, there's been a lot of high-profile SEO cases where someone has used AI to mass generate content, maybe stealing content off another site. And what we see is massive peaks and then massive drops straight away. Now, there's a number of reasons why I think AI content is doomed to fail. A lot of them you're probably already aware of, but I just want to take some time to go over them now. I think the first and most important one, and one that a lot of people don't really think about, is that by its very nature, AI content is average, and it will be. It's scientifically meant to be average. LLMs work by just predicting the next word in the sentence. It basically has analyzed billions and billions of documents, and it tries to guess what you're next going to say. And so if your sentence was it might guess with a 50% probability the next word's going to be dog. And then when it's dog, it might go up to 80% went for a walk. It just predicts the next word. So it's designed to be the average across everything. I think Brittany Mueller puts this in a lot better way than I can. An LLM will focus only on the next probable next words. It's like a musician reading through sheet music, one note at a time. The goal is to figure out what the next word is likely to be. So let's think about that for a moment. If an LLM, if your AI content is always just using a word that's the next most likely probable based off of billions of documents it's read, it's just going to be average. It has to be. It's scientifically meant to be that way. It's got to be the average of all the documents it's read, and that's how it's predicting the next word. So I guess my point to you is, do you really just want to make average content? Is that how you want your brand to be seen? The next biggest point, and one I think we can all agree on, is that junk content doesn't convert customers. And by junk, I don't necessarily mean that it's incorrect. I just mean that it's just regurgitated, it's maybe hallucinated, it's just the same thing that everyone else is doing, maybe with a few more inaccuracies because of that hallucination. And it's not written in a way it's often not written in a way designed to convert that customer. AI content also lacks appeal for real people. We're watching an explosion in users in Gen Z look at TikTok and YouTube videos over actually reading content on Google, well before AI was a thing. And that's because real people want real people. They want the personalization, they want the reviews, they want someone who's experienced it. And AI just doesn't give you that. Back to our point about its very nature, that it's average, it's designed to be mediocre. It's designed to fly in the middle and be the average of everything. Also, AI alone cannot create a memorable brand. A quote I read by a chap called Andrea Bozzoni, it said, "It's funny how everyone wants to use AI to write content, but at the same time, no one wants to read content written by AI." It's true, everyone wants to just churn it out because they want to save on money. But the reality is no one actually wants to read it. Without that personalization, without those quirks, without that first-hand experience coming through, your brand won't be remembered. And so what's the point in creating content if it's not going to create a memorable experience for your brand overall? AI-generated content has no unique edge or defensibility. Sort of came through as I was speaking about all these other points. And so I'm sort of reiterating it. Again, people want to read custom experiences. They want people's unique edge. They want all of that stuff that AI just can't bring by its very nature, because scientifically it's designed to be mediocre. It's also just not fun for humans even creating it. If you're using AI in the trashy way, you're just generating and stick it online, that won't do anything for you. The middle-of-the-road approach that people are using AI for at the moment is to generate articles and then use a human to proofread it and then edit it. That's basically taking out the fun part of creating content and expecting people to do the boring parts. The creative part of creating the content is actually the fun bit. For that reason, I believe AI content is doomed to fail. But obviously this talk is how to use AI in content, so it's probably more accurate to say completely AI content is doomed to fail. Used in great effect to enhance your writing and speed up your writing. And we're going to go through how to do that now using our very own writing assistant within Keyword Insights as inspiration. I'm going to go through a case study now where I've combined AI with my own creativity to generate an amazing article in half the time I would have done, my unique personality and my thoughts through it. So in June 2023, I wrote this article, Tangential SEO, Finding Keywords for Content No One Else Has. Now this is I think it's a 3,000 or 4,000 word piece. And when I wrote it, it went massive. It got 21,000 reads. It's been shared a load. It's got loads of backlinks. This article was written based on my own experience and my own methodologies, and it really resonated with people because it had my creativity in it, because my personality came through in it. It did really well. But because it was 4,000 or 5,000 words, it also would have taken me a really long time to write. Without AI, this probably would have taken me 8-9 hours to write. With AI, I wrote it in about 4 hours. Now, I know what you're thinking, that's still a long time, but it's infinitely more scalable than trying to write 8 or 9 hours. And I guarantee it will do infinitely better because it actually has my personality through it. So let me show you where I used AI and how I used it hand in hand with my own writing to, I guess, make a great article. I'm jumping into our own writing assistant within Keyword Insights because unlike other AI writing tools, we're really trying to stand out as a tool that actually helps humans and AI work together. We're not designing this in a way that allows you to just mass generate AI content. So let's look at how I did it. So first of all, I had to write an introduction. Now, I'm not, to speed up my time, I just want to talk into something and then have it rewritten for me. And this is a really good use case for AI, is rewriting stuff to make you sound more intelligent and more smart. So let's read my opening paragraph that I had first of all. In SEO, everything's always changing fast, so you don't keep up, you're basically toast. Regular SEO stuff is mostly about making sure your site's good for keywords that are right on point with your business does. But like everyone else doing that now, it's not written well. And how I did this, by the way, I've got a transcriber on my laptop, and I just literally transcribe as I'm speaking. In SEO, everything's always changing fast. So if you don't keep up, you're basically toast. Regular SEO stuff isn't blah, 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 blah. So, and that's how I start to write it. So I'm just thinking out loud. And then what I would do, I'd come to our writing chat here, and it's like having your own chat GPT open. And this is where we're saving time. You don't have to have multiple screens open. I'll copy this. Let's just delete the one that I don't need anymore. I'll copy the one that I've just narrated straight into my laptop. And I'll literally say, rewrite this. So I've literally written, rewrite this to read and flow better. And then I've pasted it. And I'll hit go, and it's going to rewrite that for me. Fantastic. In 30 seconds, it's made my quite, let's be honest, badly written, or badly orated at least, paragraph into something that sounds more intelligent. I can play around with the tone of voice here. I could say, rewrite this to be friendlier. And now I've got a more playful version. Or I could actually train it on my own tone of voice coming soon and rewrite it based on that. Cool, so let's take that paragraph away and add my new one in. Great, so what normally would have taken me 10 minutes to pore over words and write my intro is probably taking me now 20 seconds. To recap, I've just spoken it into my laptop. I've then pasted it into our chat assistant and asked it to rewrite into something that reads and sounds better. Great. My next section, what is tangential content? And I'm literally following this as I did write it. What is tangential content? Again, I did something similar. I spoke into it and then I asked it to reword it. But people like to think in examples and metaphors. And again, AI is really good for doing that. So I've said like tangential content, this is what it is. And then I've given one example. For example, instead of only focusing on sportswear, Nike might generate content around topics like music playlists, or different moves for reading. So I've given an example. Now I want to give 2 or 3 more because I think that'll be really useful for people. Again, all I've done is pasted that in. I've written this part for what is tangential content. I've given it my example and I've asked it to come up with 3 more. It's come up with 3 more. Samsung and yep, great. So I can now say, here are some other examples and just pop that in there. Obviously, I maybe want to make it look nicer, so I can just bold them. Great. Actually, just take this heading out. Perfect. So now again, that probably would have taken me another 5-10 minutes. I've just shaved that right off and it's taken me 20 seconds. AI is also very good at coming up with maybe some other ideas that you haven't thought about. So my next section, why create tangential content, I'll maybe have had a few ideas already. So here's the little prompt I'm giving it. For why create tangential content, I have these 3 reasons. Broader audience reach, building brand authority, increase engagement. Now, they're things that I know. They're things I've come up with. I was saying, can you think of any more? And then expand on them. And because I want this to be funny and I want users to engage with it, I'm going to say, use a funny metaphor to help the reader. Let's hit go and see what happens. Great, in about 5 seconds, I now have my content for this. So I can just click that and drop it in. I might want to create a little introduction. So I might click that and go over here to our writing tab and click an introduction. And again, I'm going to make it friendly just because I think that will make it easier. I actually can't be asked to write one. Now, of course, because it's AI, it thinks this is the beginning of the article. So I'm just going to take some of this out, probably all of that because it's not needed. And probably also the back end of this because it thinks this is the beginning of the article. And I'm just going to add a few points here. So these are 5 main reasons. These are 5 main reasons why creating it is important. Brilliant. Again, these are my ideas. And then I've asked it to bring in a bit of quirk, but ultimately it's written it far quicker than I would have done. It's come up with the metaphors quicker. It's written it quicker. It's provided the intro for me that I've just edited slightly. But most importantly, there's still my ideas and it's my creativity that's coming through. Now, I'm not going to keep going through and writing this whole guide because, like I said, the real one took me probably 3 or 4 hours. But you'll see it if you read this guide now. You'll see where I've probably used it. I've used it to come up with some of these and the funny little abstract metaphor it comes up with. I've used it to rewrite whole sections just to make it flow and read better. I've used it after I've written the whole article just to write a conclusion because that takes time. And in fact, I've made a list of the top reasons you may use AI effectively in your process. So number 1, smooth transitions to improve the flow between your ideas. As you saw, a lot of my prompts are rewrite this to read and flow better. Another point is new perspectives. So suggesting counterpoints of what if. So quite often I might write something and I'll be like, actually, can you think of some reasons this might not exist? Of course, as writers, we always have biases. And in my writing, I like to try and think about the opposite of those biases. As a white, bold male, I have certain biases that a female from another area might not have. I can use LLMs to try and think about what those biases might be and rewrite accordingly, bringing in new ideas into my content. Tone shifts is a really easy, massive one. As you saw, I use it to add humor, to add metaphors, to add similes, to rewrite things more friendly, and to also make it flow better, as I said. Simplifying complex ideas. Again, I quite often just put on my recorder, speak into it, just like a brain dump, highlight it all, and then ask it to rewrite it in a simplified way for readers that it will make sense to anyone. Structured lists. Quite often, I just write massive paragraphs and I'm like, this could be easier as a list. So highlight it all, dump it in and ask it to rewrite it as a bullet pointed list or a numbered list. Engagement highlights. Again, sometimes I write a whole guide and I think there's got to be some key points here that I just want to stand out on the page and pop. Highlight it all, whack it in, and ask the LLM, what are some key points that I can use to push this into quotes? Catchy taglines, that makes sense on its own. Detailed scenarios, so I use it to build out metaphors or similes, but you can use it to actually come up with a story. So let's say you're explaining a concept, ask the AI to rewrite it into a story that readers can get on board with a lot easier. Cultural references, again, we as writers in whatever demographic we're from whatever background, have our biases. We can use LLMs to quickly drum up relevant pop culture or historical ties that don't mean anything to us in our demographic. And reordering for impact. So what we write sometimes doesn't make sense in terms of a logical narrative, I call it. And using an LLM to rewrite it in a way that does make sense can save a lot of time and have a huge impact. And so that just about concludes how you should be using AI in your writing. So not to generate the whole thing, but to do some of these flipping and rewording and retoning. Of course, small little sales pitch here. There are some other advantages to using Keyword Insights. As you saw, it's really handy just to have the chat assistant here at the side rather than flicking between another browser or another tab. But we have some other tabs in here that would be really useful when you're writing this. If you head to the research tab, you can also look at what other articles are talking about. So even though this is my creation, my creativity, something I want to talk about, if I scan down the other sites that are ranking, I can see all the headings they use. So I can see if there's anything important I should have maybe written about. Now, there is a whole video on just about using the writing assistant and using our content briefing module. So I'm not going to go into too much detail here, but it's really useful to scan down the top ranking results and see if there's any important things I maybe should be writing about. You could also view questions asked on Reddit, Quora, and people also ask. So you can see, again, is there anything, let's add an FAQ section down here. Is there anything else I should be talking about? Vernacular SEO, is that something that I want to mention in this article? So there is some advantages to this research tab. And then finally, there's also the optimize tab. So we'd also like to help you get this ranking. Again, it's got to be your ideas, and you've used AI to write it, but now let's actually make sure we're including things that are most likely to make it rank. So we're looking at like word count. Are we as explaining things in as much detail as our competitors? We're looking at topic score. Are we talking about important topics? So we need to be talking about content ideas and AI tools and SEO performance. Mind maps is probably a big one for tangential content. So these are topics that we want to be speaking about to stand the best chance of ranking. And this article is trying to target the keyword tangential SEO. Is the keywords in the right places? Is it in the page title? Is it in the H1, the meta description? In fact, we can use this to quickly generate it using SEO best practices to try and generate an optimized meta title and meta description. I just want to segue a little bit and talk about a case study. There is this site here, Feline Fancy, and it's written by a friend of mine who has absolutely zero SEO knowledge. He's never written a blog or a guide in his life before using Keyword Insights. And he's been following the process. He's been following this idea of using AI to quickly generate to speed up him generating guides, not to write the whole thing, and then optimizing it using the recommendations in our optimized tab. Now, we have some massive clients. I won't name names here, but I could name drop some really big clients who use Keyword Insights. Despite all of that, this is my favorite case study, this little tiny blog, because it's an incredibly competitive niche. It's in the pet niche. And you'll see they have absolutely zero authority. They've done no link building, but just by following these content tips I've been given, by making sure the content is unique, creative, based on the person's personality, but using AI to help write it up. He's a one-man band and he's got a full-time job. He's using this to speed up the writing. We're getting really good results in a very short period of time. He's only just started. And remember, this is in the pet niche with a very low authority. He has, of course, also gone through our other videos and followed the whole workflow. He's used Keyword Insights to do the clustering and the briefing as well. But I just wanted to draw this out as an amazing case study, better than any of the big names I could ever drop, that if you follow this process, if you follow what we're saying to do with your content and how to write it, you will get results. It might be slightly slower than mass generating the whole AI thing, but it's infinitely better. It will make your brand stand out and it will last, most importantly. And that about sums up what I wanted to say today. You can and should be using AI to scale your content, rework metaphors, redo, make you sound more intelligent, make you sound cleverer, add examples. In fact, and I didn't go through it in that video, even use it to write definitions. Like there's no point in you writing what is a microphone. You could just AI generate that. It's going to be the same. You might want to put a little spin on it, like ask it to write it in a friendly tone of voice, or maybe your own tone of voice if you trained it to have your own tone of voice. But ultimately, the point is we shouldn't be using it to write whole 3,000 word articles. We should be using it for paragraphs or for rewriting things you've already done. So my takeaway is this: get some sort of transcript service on your laptop, log into the writing assistant on Keyword Insights, talk, just brain dump your idea on there, and then use it to rewrite it to something that makes sense. And that is how you create AI content that is original, your own, and is scalable. Any questions, let us know.